नमस्कार, मैं हूं मनोज तिब्रेवाल आकाश। एक मुलाकात में आज हमारे साथ में बेहद खास मेहमान राष्ट्रपिता महात्मा गांधी की पौत्री और प्रख्यात मानवाधिकार कार्यकर्ता इला गांधी जी। दक्षिण अफ्रीका में जन्मी और पली बढ़ी इला गांधी जी दक्षिण अफ्रीका में सार्वजनिक जीवन में काफी सक्रिय रहती हैं। 2007 में पद्म भूषण से सम्मानित इला गांधी जी दक्षिण अफ्रीका के आजादी के आंदोलन में महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभा चुकी हैं। इला गांधी जी 1994 से 2004 तक दक्षिण अफ्रीका में संसद सदस्य भी रहीं। अभी हाल में ही दिल्ली में संपन्न 12वें प्रवासी भारतीय दिवस सम्मेलन में इला गांधी जी को राष्ट्रपति प्रणब मुखर्जी ने प्रवासी भारतीय सम्मान पुरस्कार से सम्मानित भी किया। आज हम इला गांधी जी से तमाम सवालों पर बातचीत करेंगे। इला जी, आपका स्वागत है दूरदर्शन की इस खास पड़ताल एक मुलाकात में। अभी हाल में ही आपको राष्ट्रपति प्रणब मुखर्जी ने प्रवासी भारतीय सम्मान पुरस्कार से सम्मानित किया है। कैसे देखते हैं इस सम्मान को?
I'm very humbled by the award. Once it's a recognition of the work that we have done in South Africa, I want to clarify that I'm not alone in the work. There were many people involved in all the work that has been done. And the award is, I accept the award on behalf of all the people.
आपके दादाजी महात्मा गांधी जी का जब निधन हुआ तो उस समय आप मात्र 7 साल की थीं। किस तरह की याद जुड़ी हुई है आपकी राष्ट्रपिता महात्मा गांधी जी के साथ?
I was very lucky that just in the year before he passed away, I was in, my parents and I came to India. And so I had an opportunity to meet him. So I got to know him as a grandfather and got to love him as a grandfather. We just returned to South Africa in around December of 1947, and in 48 he passed away. And when we heard the news, it was really heartbreaking for all of us. For me, it was a great loss because I lost a grandfather.
महात्मा गांधी जी की कौन सी ऐसी बातें हैं जो आपने अपने माता पिता से सुनी और उनको आज भी अपनाती हैं आप?
बहुत सी बातें हैं. First one is that not being self-centered, that we must think of other people all the time in whatever decisions we make. Whatever choices we make in life, we have to think of other people. And I think that was a very kind of potent message that my parents taught me, and that has remained in my life. It often happens that we only think of how we feel when we make choices in life. And Gandhiji always impressed on people that you must think of other people. He gave a talisman, he said once, and that is, look at the face of the poorest of the poor, and if whatever decision you take is going to benefit them, then take that decision. So when we fought for freedom in South Africa, it wasn't just a question of replacing one government with another government, but it was a question of bringing in policies, bringing in laws, bringing in kind of reforms that would help the people, the community. And that was the whole idea behind the revolution that took place in South Africa. And when you think of other people, you also think of non-violence. So non-violence is an important part of our, struggle. Both India and South Africa implemented the Gandhian style of non-violent action, satyagraha.
अभी हाल में ही नेल्सन मंडेला जी का निधन हुआ। उनके भी आप काफ़ी करीब रहीं। किस तरह की यादें जुड़ी हुई हैं आपकी नेल्सन मंडेला जी के साथ?
remember him, and I sort of cherish his memory with a lot of passion because he was close to us. He sacrificed 27 years of his life in prison. When I was young, he was the youth leader of the Congress movement, and I was also part of the Congress movement. So we really admired his leadership, and although he had opted for violent action at that time to overthrow the government of the day because the government refused to come to the table. There were many requests to the government that please come and have a discussion with us, but the government refused. And it was only after the government refused that we, or at least Mr. Mandela and the group, decided that we cannot continue to practice nonviolence. We have to be more aggressive in order to move the government. So kind of admired him when he went underground, when he beat the system by remaining underground. We used to see him, but the government didn't see him and didn't. And that happened for about 2 years. We called him the Black Pimpernel, based on the story of the Scarlet Pimpernel. And so it was adventurous, and we were very proud of him. And I, for the first time, saw him just before he was released from prison. And my impression of him was just mind-boggling. He was so humble. He spoke to all of us, and he knew about each one of us, even though he was in prison for such a long time. But he knew each one of us by name. And even afterwards, if he'd meet me anywhere, he would call me by my name. And that in itself shows what a warm person he was.
आप दक्षिण अफ्रीका में जन्मी हैं, वहीं पर पली बढ़ी हैं और वहीं पर रहती हैं। बावजूद इसके भारत से आपका लगाव बराबर बना हुआ है और आप भारत और दक्षिण अफ्रीका के रिश्तों को लगातार मजबूत करने की दिशा में काम कर रही हैं। भविष्य में किस तरह के रिश्ते दोनों देशों के बीच और मजबूत होने की संभावना देखती हैं आप?
Well, we have similar problems, South Africa and India. We have great inequalities. We have a lot of infrastructure development that we have to meet in the future, and a lot of issues like education, healthcare, and so on that need attention. So in that respect, I think that we share a lot of similarities. India has been free for more than 50 years, and so its progress has been much greater than South Africa's progress. So in that respect, it has developed skills and methods and so on. And in that respect, we learn from each other. So in many ways, like how to preserve our indigenous knowledge systems, how to develop our own identity rather than become westernized and so on. Those are some of the issues that we are grappling with as well in South Africa, and we are looking to India for guidance, for support, and for ideas on how we can preserve what was ours in the past, which is dying because of the westernization, but which has so much of value.
आप 10 साल के करीब दक्षिण अफ्रीका में सांसद भी रहीं। इस दौरान क्या कुछ किया वहाँ पर आपने?
मेरे पिताजी was involved in the movement, in the defiance campaigns, and so on. So they used to defy laws. And when my father used to go to the meetings, I used to accompany him. And we used to go on marches to the spot where they would go and defy the law. For instance, they would walk into a post office from the whites only entrance. So a batch of people would go into the post office, but there would be hundreds of people, thousands of people who would march and wait there to see what happens. For me, the first issue was that when I came to India, and I left India in 1947, I experienced the independence of India, in August, 31st of August. And I had the opportunity in a little village to raise the flag in a school in the village where my maternal grandparents used to live. And my maternal grandparents are Mashruwalas, who were very close to Gandhiji. My uncle was his secretary and confidant and so on. I began to, develop a patriotic spirit and a spirit of defiance from that time, and to see what it means to become free. And for me, that raising of the flag was a huge thing. As a 7-year-old, I used to tie my handkerchief on a stick and walk about singing Chanda Ucha Rahe Hamara. And that was big, inspiration for me. When I went back to South Africa, it remained with me, and now I wanted to raise the South African flag. So my spirit was with the South African, that we too must attain independence and raise our flag.
डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस के अगेंस्ट भी आपने काफ़ी मूवमेंट चलाए हैं.
This happened particularly when I was in Parliament. In 1994, I became a member of Parliament, and then my constituency was the Phoenix community, and I went to the community and I asked them, what would you like, what are the main problems in this area, what would you like me to do? And it was through these discussions that I realized that a very big problem was domestic violence. And I began to see the stark reality of what was happening to the women in the area. And so we decided, together with a number of volunteers in the area, to set up a helpline, 24-hour helpline. It was a telephone line which I sponsored as a member of Parliament in my constituency. And it served the entire public. Anyone could phone in and ask for help at any time. And we would then answer the call. So we trained the people who, were at the other end of the helpline. And I used to also answer the phones, like on weekends, when I wasn't in Parliament, or in the evenings and the holidays. And I have been active in promoting women's empowerment, because I believe that laws and policies alone cannot help. It has to be the mindsets of people. And we help all of them. And we help to rehabilitate. Our main purpose, and which is something that we learned from Mr. Mandela, that you can, you learn to hate people, so you can also learn to love people.
भारत में बलात्कारियों को मृत्यु दंड देने की लंबे समय से मांग होती आ रही है. आपको क्या लगता है कि बलात्कारियों को फांसी की सजा दिए जाने से महिलाओं के प्रति जो अपराध हो रहे हैं उसमें कमी आएगी?
Well, I'm very opposed to the death penalty. In South Africa, we campaigned for an end to death penalty. and it has been banned. There's no longer capital punishment in South Africa. There are many reasons. There's a book called When the State Kills, and it has been brought out by Amnesty International, which tells you exactly why the death penalty is not an answer to the problems that we face.
आपने महात्मा गांधी जी के ऊपर 2 किताबों का भी प्रकाशन किया है, इसके बारे में कुछ बताएं।
मैंने जो पुस्तकें लिखी हैं वो तो बच्चों के लिए है। 2 books. One was part of a book, a series called They Fought for Freedom, and that book is basically about Gandhiji's life in South Africa. The second book is about values, because I believe that it's not about the personality that one has to look at. Personality is important, but it's not the only important aspect. The important aspect is what did they teach us, and that is the message that we need to bring across. And so it's essential values that Gandhiji taught us, and those are the values that I put down in the book. And those values are there to discuss and to promote in people's lives. I have written a 3rd book as well, which is largely about the media and what the role of the media should be. Gandhiji was one of the most renowned journalists. He wrote many books. He also ran many newspapers, and that aspect of his life hasn't been well advertised. It has been written about. Bhattacharya ji wrote a beautiful book which is out of print now. Nobody is reading it. But Gandhiji's message to media and to journalists is a very important message, just as his message to lawyers and doctors is also an important message.
जिस तरह से महात्मा गांधी जी से जुड़ी हुई वस्तुएं नीलाम की जा रही हैं, उसको लेकर कहीं न कहीं आपको दुख पहुंचता है, कारण क्या है?
I feel that Gandhiji himself has continuously said that his life should not be treated as a commodity, as an economic commodity, and that his life was his message. That is the most important thing, his message, and not all these little ornaments and memorabilia and so on. And particularly when people try to sell them for, self-gain, then I think that it's defeating the importance of the message that Gandhiji had given to society.
आपने सक्रिय राजनीति छोड़ दी है, इसकी वजह क्या है?
I left Parliament in 2002. I was in Parliament, elected to Parliament in 1994, and I served the first 5 years. I then told my constituency that please, ask somebody else to stand in this for this area, and they wanted me to stand for another term. So I agreed on the basis that I wouldn't continue in that position, and my constituency agreed to that, and therefore after serving a certain period, I decided that I want to retire. 2 reasons, because I feel that in the first years in Parliament we had a lot of opportunity to change the terrible laws, the terrible policies that were, instilled with racism, with oppression of one group of people, and that exploitation and so on. So we had to change those policies. After that, it was about implementing those policies. And as you know, the implementation is done by the executive, not by Parliament. And I felt that after the first 5 years, that I needed to go back to the community and empower the community. Unless the community is empowered, unless they understand. And I see that there are 3 things that one has to do to effect a participatory democracy. The first thing is that the public must be knowledgeable. They must know how things work, how laws are made, how laws are implemented, what are the different aspects of government and so on, and what each arm of government does. So that kind of knowledge must be accessible to all the people in the country so that they can make informed decisions. So that's the first thing, the knowledge. The second thing is that people must be active. They must be able to participate. They must be able to articulate their views and their needs. If they don't articulate their needs and their views about issues, then people are not just going to dream up that these are the difficulties you are facing. And often Parliament is far from the people, because even though parliamentarians have a constituency, they sit in, say, for instance, in India, they sit in Delhi. How much of contact do they have, daily contact with the people that they left behind? So in a way, it's a two-way process. The people have to interact with their MPs to tell them what are their problems. Then the MPs must be active to try and address those problems. And then the third aspect is that we must have a system where people who are elected representatives of the community are not there to become lords and mayors of, as in the Western society, but rather the servants of the people. And that's the kind of government that we should aspire to, where the people meet the needs of the community. And that can only happen, the third one can happen if the first two are attained. If people are not knowledgeable, they ask for all kinds of things which a parliamentarian is not going to be able to deliver. So they must know what is it that the government can deliver, what is it that we can do for ourselves, and what is it that as a community we can, attend to.
मैम, आपकी दिनचर्या क्या है?
I have many things that I attend to. From the time I get up in the morning, there are lots and lots of emails. I attend to the emails myself. I don't have a secretary. I don't have anyone assisting me with my personal or, the people that write to me. I attend to my correspondence myself. So that's the one thing that I have to do. The second thing is I run a newspaper called Satyagraha. It's a monthly newspaper, but there are lots of stories and things that I have to edit, and I am the editor of the newspaper. So we have journalists, they bring the stories, and I have to edit those stories. And our stories at the end of the day are there to teach people. Then I get a lot of invitations to go out to schools, to go out to communities and so on. talk to them and that sort of thing. And then finally, I do like to do some social work. I am a social worker by profession, and I like to keep in touch with the community. So there are things, when possible, I try to do for the community itself, directly going to the community and attending to things.
आखिरी सवाल, देश के नौजवानों को आपका मैसेज क्या है?
My message is that you have to learn about social life, because it's not just about yourself, it's about your society. And when you think of your society, you also think about yourself. It's a two-way thing, because if you improve the conditions in society, if you have good roads, for instance, you can also walk on those roads or drive on those roads. So whilst you're creating the roads for the community, you're also looking at yourself, that you can also use that. And therefore it's a two-way thing. And that young people must begin to look at society in that context, that it's not just me, it's the entire community. And how can we participate to improve the community? So one of the issues is that at midnight, can I walk on that road? Am I safe on that road? If I'm not safe, why am I not safe? And what can I do to make that road safe? Those are the questions that I would put to young people, and let the young people begin to answer those questions, because we have it in our hands. We can make the change. And so let's all get together and make that change.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद दूरदर्शन से इस बातचीत के लिए। तो ये थी राष्ट्रपिता महात्मा गांधी की पौत्री और दुनिया भर में मशहूर प्रख्यात मानवाधिकार कार्यकर्ता इला गांधी जी, जिन्होंने हमारे तमाम सवालों का जवाब दिया। इला गांधी जी दुनिया भर में राष्ट्रपिता महात्मा गांधी द्वारा किए गए कार्यों का प्रचार प्रसार करने में जुटी हुई हैं। अगले सप्ताह आपसे फिर मुलाकात होगी ठीक इसी समय आपके अपने लोकप्रिय कार्यक्रम एक मुलाकात में, देश की एक और बड़ी हस्ती के साथ। तब तक नमस्कार।